What if the most masterful manipulators aren't powerful geniuses, but are actually trapped in a psychological prison they built themselves? We have this image of the manipulator as a chess grandmaster, moving people like pieces, always 5 steps ahead. Cool, calculating, and ruthlessly in control. It's a terrifying and, let's be honest, almost admirable image of power. But this image, it's a dangerous illusion. It's a mask that gives them power they don't actually possess. And more importantly, it disempowers you. We're about to explore the patterns Carl Jung documented over a lifetime of clinical practice to reveal a truth that's far more complex, and in the end, more empowering. We're going to see how their seemingly genius-level tactics aren't a sign of strength at all. Instead, they're a desperate, unconscious attempt to control a chaotic inner world, a world shattered by deep-seated childhood trauma. You'll learn that the real source of their power, it's a projection, a ghost, and once you see it for what it is, it can never control you again. We're all fascinated by the myth of the master manipulator. We see them in fiction, in history, and sometimes in our own lives. They're the Iagos of the world, whispering poison into the ears of the powerful. They're the political strategists who believe the ends justify any means, that it's better to be feared than loved. They're the charismatic cult leaders who convince hundreds to abandon their lives, and the corporate climbers who get ahead on the backs of their colleagues. This archetype, it fascinates us because it represents a form of power that feels both forbidden and absolute. It's the power to shape reality itself, not with physical force, but through the subtle, invisible art of psychological influence. We watch them with a mix of horror and awe, marveling at their audacity and their intricate webs of deception. They seem to have a secret knowledge of the human psyche, an ability to see the strings that move us and pull them at will. This makes them seem almost superhuman, like they're playing 3-dimensional chess while the rest of us are stuck on checkers. But here's the danger of buying into this myth. When we see the manipulator as an all-powerful genius, we automatically cast ourselves as the helpless pawn. Their perceived strength becomes our weakness. We feel outmatched, intellectually and emotionally. We start to believe their story, that they are strong and we are weak, that they are smart and we are foolish. This belief is the very foundation their influence is built on. Without you unwittingly agreeing to this power dynamic, their tactics would fall flat. They need you to believe in their genius, because their entire sense of self is built on this fragile illusion. Think about it. Their grand strategies, their clever words, their perfectly timed emotional appeals. What are they for? They're all designed to get a specific reaction from you, to make you doubt yourself, feel guilty, feel responsible for their happiness, or feel so confused that you rely on them for clarity. Their entire performance is for an audience of one, you. This is why the common view of the manipulator is so disempowering. It focuses on their supposed strengths, completely ignoring the massive weaknesses these behaviors actually stem from. It validates their mask of power without ever asking what's really behind it. So let's ask the question, the one that starts to unravel it all. What if this whole image of the all-powerful puppet master is just a desperate masquerade? What if the real story isn't one of genius, but of profound, unhealed pain? And this is where the work of Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, becomes not just insightful, but revolutionary. Jung wasn't interested in surface behaviors. He was an archaeologist of the human soul. He listened to the stories people told, but more importantly, he listened to the stories their unconscious was telling through them. From his decades of clinical work, a radical idea really took shape: the most extreme and destructive human behaviors, and yes, that includes manipulation, they don't come from a place of strength. Oh no, They are in fact the desperate cries of a wounded and fragmented psyche. To get this, we have to talk about one of Jung's core concepts, the shadow. Imagine your personality is a house. You've got the living room, the clean, well-lit space you present to the world, decorated to show off the best version of yourself. Jung called this the persona, that social mask we all wear to fit in. It's your professional self, your role as a good friend or a responsible citizen. There's nothing wrong with the persona, though. It's a necessary tool. But every house also has a basement, and usually it's a dark, cluttered one. This is the shadow. The shadow is where we toss everything we deem unacceptable about ourselves. It's where our repressed fears, our insecurities, and all those negative emotions like rage, envy, and greed, well, they just live there. It holds our shame, our vulnerabilities, those parts of ourselves that were rejected by our parents, our peers, or even our culture. We all have a shadow. As Jung said, becoming conscious of it. Well, that requires real moral effort. It's just much easier to lock that basement door and pretend it isn't there. The manipulator, though, does something different. They don't just lock the door, they live in terror of what's behind it. Their own shadow, those feelings of inadequacy, of being unlovable, of inner chaos, is so overwhelming, they just can't bear to look at it. So they use a powerful psychological defense mechanism Jung called projection. Projection, you see, is the unconscious act of taking what's in your own shadow and seeing it in other people. Because the manipulator can't face their own deep-seated insecurity, they'll relentlessly call you insecure. Unable to manage their own inner chaos, they'll accuse you of being unstable and irrational. And unable to acknowledge their own shame, they become masters at making you feel guilty for things you never even did. They are, in essence, using you as a movie screen to project their own inner horror film. This does two key things for them. First, it temporarily relieves them of their own self-hatred. If you're the weak one, they can feel strong. Second, it gives them a sense of control. They can't control their own inner demons, but they absolutely can try to control you, the person now wearing the face of those demons. This is the core of Jung's insight, and it changes everything. Manipulation isn't always a calculated strategy from a powerful mind. More often, it's a desperate, unconscious survival tactic from a fragmented one. The genius we see is actually the frantic, reactive intelligence of a cornered animal. They aren't playing chess. They're reacting to the ghosts of their own past, ghosts they see in your eyes. While some manipulative acts can be conscious, the underlying patterns are often compulsions, driven by unhealed wounds. Many manipulators aren't even fully aware of what they're doing. Their actions are the ingrained reflexes of a lifetime spent surviving their own internal reality. They're prisoners, and their tactics are just attempts to pull you into the cell with them because they can't bear to be alone with their shadow. To make this real, let's create a composite case study based on the patterns Jung saw, time and time again. We'll call our patient Helena. Now, to the outside world, Helena is a pillar of strength. She's a respected professional, the friend everyone turns to for advice, the one who always seems to have it all together. Her relationships, though, tell a really different story. They're intense, volatile, and usually end with the other person feeling utterly drained and confused. Meanwhile, Helena, well, she emerges as the tragic, misunderstood victim. To truly understand the Helena of today, we have to look at the child she once was. Helena grew up in a home that looked perfect but was emotionally barren. Her parents weren't overtly abusive. In fact, they were admired. But their love, well, it was conditional. Affection was a reward for achievement. Things like good grades, perfect behavior, quiet compliance. Expressing negative feelings like sadness or anger was met with disapproval. "Don't be so dramatic," or "you're too sensitive," were the refrains of her childhood. In this environment, Helena learned a devastating lesson. Her authentic self, well, it was unacceptable. Her real feelings were a liability. So she did what any child would do to survive. She took all those messy, inconvenient parts of herself, her vulnerability, her need for unconditional love, her anger, and locked them away in her shadow. She became a master at playing the role of the perfect daughter. This was, in essence, the birth of her persona. But those needs, they didn't go away. They just went underground. From that hidden place, she began to develop sophisticated, indirect ways to get them met. This wasn't a conscious choice. No, it was pure survival. She couldn't say, "I'm sad, I need a hug." So she learned that if she subtly made her mother feel guilty, a hug might appear. And she couldn't say, "I'm angry you ignored me." So she learned that withdrawing affection, the main currency in her home, by the way, was a powerful way to punish and regain control. She was, in essence, learning the language of manipulation as her native tongue. Fast forward to adulthood. These deeply ingrained patterns, they're now the unconscious engine driving all of Helena's relationships. She isn't consciously aware that she's reenacting her childhood trauma. No, she only knows a deep, pervasive inner emptiness and a terror of being abandoned. Let's look at her primary tactics. One is gaslighting. Imagine her partner brings up something she said that hurt him. Instantly, Helena feels that old, familiar shame. The feeling of being, wrong. It's intolerable. So she projects it. "You're completely misremembering that," she'll say with absolute conviction. "I never said that. You're being far too sensitive. Maybe you're the one who's stressed and looking for a fight." In moments, her partner is questioning his own memory, his own sanity. Helena, meanwhile, has successfully dodged her shame by making him the crazy one. When she feels insecure in a friendship, Helena creates a triangle. She might tell friend A a secret about friend B, then she'll tell friend B a slightly different story, always making sure all communication flows through her. This places her right at the center, making her feel indispensable and in control. It's a perfect mirror of the chaos she feels inside. She creates external chaos to manage her internal state. If her partner disappoints her or fails to meet an unspoken need, Helena becomes a fortress of silence. She won't answer texts, and she'll withdraw all affection. This isn't a calm request for space. No, it's a potent punishment. She's using the very weapon that was used against her as a child, the withdrawal of love. It forces her partner into a frantic state of anxiety, desperate to figure out what he did wrong. This gives Helena a temporary feeling of immense power, an antidote to her underlying powerlessness. In the wreckage of every failed relationship, Helena has a compelling story of how she was wronged and betrayed. She's never the agent of her own misery. She's always the blameless victim. This isn't just a lie she tells others, it's the story she tells herself. To admit fault would mean confronting the shadow she has spent a lifetime repressing. The Jungian analysis, a prisoner of the past. From the outside, Helena seems, powerful. But through the Jungian lens, we see the tragic truth. Helena isn't a queen on a chessboard, She's a ghost, haunting the ruins of her own childhood. She's endlessly reenacting the same drama, the desperate search for the unconditional love she never received. Her gaslighting? That's really her own self-doubt projected outward. And her triangulation? That's the frantic effort of a fragmented self, trying to organize the world because she just can't organize her own psyche. Her constant need for control, that's a direct measure of the profound inner chaos she's trying to manage. she isn't free. In fact, she is, perhaps, the least free person in any of her relationships, completely controlled by the wounds of a little girl who learned that love was a game you had to win. So, what does all this mean for you? Because understanding their psychological prison isn't just an academic exercise. It's the first step in your liberation. The aha moment is this: the manipulator's power isn't what it seems. It's an illusion that only works when we unconsciously agree to believe in it. Their tactics are like a vampire's. They have no power unless they're invited in. They only work in the darkness of unawareness. When you're in the thick of it, their power feels incredibly real, and Jung's work validates that. He identified the clear signals manipulation leaves behind. Do you feel a constant draining exhaustion, a fog of self-doubt, where you're always questioning your memory and your sanity? Have your personal boundaries been so eroded you don't know where you end and they begin? Do you carry a persistent feeling of guilt, like you're always falling short, or are responsible for their emotional state? Here's the key. These feelings aren't proof of your weakness. They are breadcrumbs. They are the psychic footprints of their projected shadow all over your mind. Your exhaustion is a direct reflection of their inner turmoil, outsourced to you. Your confusion is a compass pointing directly at their gaslighting. Your guilt is the leash they're using, a leash they made from their own unacknowledged shame. Once you realize this, you can stop internalizing the poison. You are not the problem. You're experiencing the symptoms of their problem. And this is where your power returns. But, and this is critical, you can't fix them. You can't be a good enough partner or a loyal enough friend to heal their childhood wounds. Their journey into their own shadow is one they must choose for themselves, and most never do. Trying to save them is like jumping onto a sinking ship to teach the captain how to swim. Your job isn't to fix their ship, it's to get back to yours and sail away. So, how do you do that? First, let's talk about depersonalizing their attacks. This is truly the biggest game changer. When they lash out or criticize you, learn to hear it not as an attack on you, but as a confession about them. For instance, when they call you needy, try translating it in your mind to "I am terrified of my own needs." And when they accuse you of trying to control them, hear, "I am losing control of my inner world, and it terrifies me." Now, this isn't about being compassionate in the moment, you know. It's really a strategic tool for emotional self-preservation. It creates a buffer, a crucial buffer, between their words and your feelings. Next, we need to talk about trusting your reality as a diagnostic tool. Your feelings, well, they're no longer a source of confusion, they're data. That dizzying feeling during a conversation, that's the feeling of being gaslit. Just name it. That feeling of being emotionally drained after talking to them, that's the feeling of having their shadow projected onto you. Again, name it. And that sudden urge to apologize when you did absolutely nothing wrong, that's their guilt tripping, plain and simple. By labeling the tactic as it happens, you'll find you're moving from being a participant in the drama to simply an observer of the pattern. 3. Observe. Don't absorb. This is where you put it all into practice. When you engage with them, imagine you're a psychologist, observing a fascinating, if tragic, case study. See their behaviors as textbook examples. There's the projection. Interesting. A classic triangulation maneuver. Notice the shift to victim status to avoid accountability. This detached observation creates profound psychological distance. You can't be drawn into a game if you refuse to play your assigned part. Their power lies in their ability to make their inner drama, your inner drama. When you refuse to internalize it, the illusion collapses. So what happens after you've seen behind the curtain and the manipulator's power dissolves? There's a risk of becoming cynical, of building walls so high that no one gets in again. But Jung's work, it actually points to a more powerful path forward. It's about transforming from a victim of manipulation to something we might call an integrated empath. Now, Jung never actually used that specific term, but modern thinkers, inspired by his work, use it to describe the next stage of psychological evolution for someone who has endured and understood manipulation. It's not about losing your empathy, no, that's your superpower. It's about integrating that sensitivity with the wisdom you've gained from your journey through the darkness. It's about pairing your open heart with an unbreakable backbone. The typical empath, before this integration, often has thin boundaries. They feel others' emotions as their own, and they feel a compulsive need to heal the pain they absorb. And the manipulator? They're drawn to this like a shark to blood, because, well, the empath is the perfect repository for their projected shadow. The empath, you see, willingly takes on the manipulator's pain, confusion, and shame, believing it's an act of love. The integrated empath is different. They've done their own shadow work. They've journeyed into their own psychological basement and made peace with what they've found. They've acknowledged their own capacity for anger, their own people-pleasing tendencies, and their own fear of abandonment. Because they've faced these things in themselves, they can no longer be unconsciously triggered when a manipulator projects these same traits onto them. You can't be shamed by your anger if you've already accepted it as a valid part of you. This integration leads to a new kind of empathy, a selective, strategic empathy. The integrated empath can still read others' emotions with incredible accuracy, but they aren't hijacked by them. They can witness another's pain without absorbing it. They can feel compassion for the wounded child inside the manipulator, while building impenetrable boundaries against the destructive behavior of the adult. Manipulators can sense this shift. Their usual tactics, the guilt-tripping, the gaslighting, the victim narrative, suddenly have no effect. They're throwing their projections against a mirror instead of a sponge. The integrated empath doesn't need to fight back or announce their power. Their calm, unshakable self-possession is the most powerful defense. It silently communicates. I see you. I see your pain and I see your patterns, and I will not participate. This is what manipulators fear most, because it reflects back the one thing they cannot face: themselves. True power, the kind that lasts, isn't found in controlling others. It's found in the courageous work of integrating our own selves. It's about becoming whole. The manipulator's frantic quest for external control is a futile attempt to fill an internal void. The journey to becoming an integrated empath is about filling that void from within. It is the ultimate reclamation of your psychological sovereignty. The manipulator's goal is to make you a character in their chaotic story. Your freedom lies in realizing you are the author of your own. This isn't just theory. For many of us, this is real life. You've likely encountered figures like the one we discussed today. And maybe you've even seen glimpses of these patterns in yourself. Understanding is a collective process. Share your own aha moments or your experiences in the comments below. Your story might be the revelation that helps someone else begin their own journey, from being a character in someone else's drama to becoming the author of their own life. The psychology of genius-level manipulation reveals itself to be the psychology of genius-level suffering. The intricate webs of deception are not monuments to a powerful intellect, but memorials to a shattered sense of self. By pulling back the curtain with Jung's insights, we don't just expose the manipulator's weakness, we reclaim our own strength. True power is not the ability to control the people around you. It is the courage to face the chaos within you, to integrate your own light and shadow, and to emerge whole. That is a power no one can ever take from you.